All right, this is Algebra 2. This video is a little bit of support on your bookwork for factoring hard AC. So your assignment was page 463, numbers 4 through 10 even. I'm going to do 2 of those problems now, step by step. If you have further questions, please ask in class. All right, so problem, oops. Sorry, trying to situate myself here. I'm going to do problem number 6. All right, so problem number 6, 6p squared plus 5p plus 1. All right, so this has 1, 2, 3 terms. And the leading coefficient is not 1. This number up front is not 1. That makes this hard AC. Okay? So the first thing I need to do is multiply A times C. So in this problem, that's 6 times 1. So I need to find factors of 6 whose sum is 5. Okay? So factors of 6 could be either 1 and 6, or 2 and 3. Okay? So we have to figure out which ones are going to add. I know it's add because this number is positive. If this number is positive, we're adding them. Does 1 plus 6 add up to 5? It does not. Does 2 plus 3 add up to 5? Yes, it does. So these are the magic numbers. All right, so once you know the magic numbers, I'm going to substitute those for the middle term. Okay, so I'm going to bring down 6p squared. Instead of 5p, I'm going to use these two numbers. So I'm going to use a 2p plus the other magic number is 3. So I'm going to use a 3p. Okay, so those went in where 5p was. Then I'm going to do factor by grouping. So I'm grouping. And then the GCF of the first group, the largest number that divides into these two terms, would be 2p. So now I'm dividing. 6p squared divided by 2p is 3p. 2p divided by 2p is 1. Now I'm going to do the GCF of the second group. Okay? Now there is no number larger than 1 that divides into both of those evenly. When we are doing factor by grouping, if the GCF is 1, you must write 1. Okay? When we did just GCF, you didn't have to do that, but for factor by grouping, you have to write a 1 if that's the GCF. 3p divided by 1 is 3p. 1 divided by 1 is 1. Okay, the stuff in the parentheses must match. So 3p plus 1 and 3p plus 1 must be the same. If they're not the same, go back and check your work. Okay, and that is the first of my 2 factors. The other factor is going to be the sum of this and this. So 2p plus 1 is my other factor. So there's your answer. All right, I'm going to do problem 10. Problem 10, 14m squared plus m minus 3. And again, what you always do first, is GCF. And there is no number that I can divide into all 3 terms evenly. So since this has 3 terms, it's AC. And since the first coefficient is not 1, it's hard AC. Okay? So A times C, factors of A times C would be negative 42, whose sum is positive 1. Okay? So let's see, what are my factors of 42? I could do 1 and 42, 2 and 21, 3 and 14, 7 and 6. I think that's it, right? So now, since this is negative, right, I am looking to subtract. So I want to subtract these numbers, right? I wrote sum, but if this number is negative, you want to subtract, okay? And see which pair is going to give me a 1, okay? So 42 minus 1, that's not it. 21 minus 2, that's not it. 14 minus 3, that's not it. 7 minus 6, that gives me a 1. So we have to figure out which one's going to be positive and which one's going to be negative. Since the middle term is positive, the bigger one is positive. So 7 will be positive, 6 will be negative. So here are the magic numbers. Okay. I'm going to substitute those two numbers for my middle term. So bring down the 14m squared. Instead of 1m, I am writing plus 7m minus 6m because 7 and negative 6 are my magic numbers. And then I'm going to group. Okay. All right, GCF of the first group, 14 and 7, a 7 can divide into both, and m squared and m can divide into both. Now we're dividing. 14m squared divided by 7m is 2m. 7m divided by 7m is 1. Now, the next group. Anytime the first term of any polynomial is negative, the GCF is negative. So since this first term is negative, I'm going to be factoring out a negative something, and the GCF of 6 and 3 is 3. I'm dividing out a negative 3. Negative 6m divided by negative 3m is 2m. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 is positive 1. The stuff in the parentheses has to match. If it doesn't, find your mistake. So 2m plus 1 is in common. That can come out. And in the other parentheses goes 7m and negative 3. So 7m minus 3. So this is your answer. All right. I hope you can try the other ones by yourself.